Hey there, Commercial Construction Coffee Talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction Renovation magazine. This is what it used to look like. Sorry about the little halo. Breaking out the archives, March, April 2015. Joe Maffa, Riley Hotel Group. Thanks, Joe, for being on the cover. And always nice to hold the magazine. Let's see what I was doing way back when. Oh, I had hair and it was kind of brown. Got my lacrosse shirt on and was coaching the high school at the time. So talking about the big state of Texas, but always nice to see what was going on. Let's see, that was March, April. That was 9 years ago. Unbelievable how time flies. But went digital August of 2021. Had White Castle on the cover, biggest store they've ever built, and don't miss the post office. Don't miss the printer. It's been an amazing ride. Had 3.5 million people hit the website consuming content last month. Thank you so much to everybody out there on the Wild Wild Web for finding us. And it's been an amazing ride from making the transformation from print face-to-face to digital, and I haven't looked back since. So once again, we appreciate everybody out there finding us on the web and on Google and pointing you to our website. So today, our guest is up in, he's actually from my neck of the woods, Delaware, Philly guy, and lived in the ATL, and now he's in the Music City in Nashville, Tennessee. His name is Pete. Hopefully I'll get this right. Piecuch, right?
You got it.
And he's in risk management with InsureTEK, and he's he's in the kind of the water gig, and then insurance and coverage, and so Pete, say hello to our guests out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
Hello, everyone. David, thank you for having me today. Look forward to the chat.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for those of you who don't know out there, water is, and I'm from Philly, so I say water. I'm sorry, but and I haven't gotten rid of my twang being down in Atlanta since '92, but that's the way we say it up there. That's how you can tell you're from Philly if you say water.
Water.
It's just what people go. Where are you from? You're not from New York. You're not from Boston. You're not from Rhode Island. Where are you? Delaware. They have their twang, and oh no, it's Philly. That's what it is. So anyway, but water is a very listen. If you ever have a water leak, and it just can do some serious damage, and my parents went through this a couple years ago. The water line broke on the refrigerator after they locked the house up in north of Phoenix for the summer, and it just wrecked the entire house. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage just from a cracked water line on the refrigerator. But it was running for about 10 days. And if they would have had a sensor on it, we would have known. And when they rebuilt the house, they put the sensors in there because all the drywall had to get ripped out. Basically, the whole house had to get gutted. And in hindsight, the house looks beautiful now. It's just out there in November, and I hadn't seen it since they had rebuilt it. But I'm doing my own house build. I'm breaking ground next month. And when we get to that portion before the drywall goes up and all that, we've already talked to the plumber, and we're going to put those sensors in the house just for an insurance, coverage gig. So, Pete, the way this work is, I do my interviews and our episodes in 3 parts. You'll tell your story, where you grew up, where you went to school, how you ended up at InsureTech. Then we'll talk about lessons learned from the last 3 years that our listeners might find of interest. And then one positive thought or phrase, your contact info, and then we'll close it out. So with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Well, thank you. I grew up in, like yourself, Dave, I grew up in Philadelphia area, Conshohocken, King of Prussia area. Went to Marion High School, University of Delaware. And then as a young professional, I had an opportunity to work with a very large insurance company, then large insurance brokerage firm in Atlanta, Georgia. So pretty much most of my adult life was in the Atlanta area as an insurance broker. And that basically means, property and casualty insurance, dealing with things like water losses, car accidents, workers' comp, all those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And then I had a very exciting opportunity to move. I had done a little bit of international work because one of my developer clients had done some work in the Caribbean, and then branched out into Western Africa on some important infrastructure projects in Liberia, Africa, of all places. And then he kept on going. He went to the Middle East, to Qatar, and to work on some very large infrastructure projects for leading up to the World Cup. So as he kept going, I kept following him and learning more about international insurance, how it's different, how it works, how it doesn't work sometimes. And when I got to the Middle East, I found it to be a very interesting environment, because that part of the world really has adopted technology. They would rather use technology as opposed to buying insurance. Insurance in the Middle East, Sharia law considers insurance as gambling, so
Right.
it's largely frowned upon, and it's not invisible. There still has to be some there, but for the most part, if there's an opportunity to use technology to make a positive impact on insurance, they're going to spend the money on it. They have the money. The technology is new, it's evolving, and that's really where the genesis between myself and my IT partner, Dr. Dennis Sheldon, and Mike Murphy, who's a international real estate expert. That's where InsureTech was born, was to figure out how do we use these amazing new tools that we've got, these IoT sensors. How can we use them on large commercial projects, large homes? How can we take that technology and inject it into a broader risk management solution in the projects that we were doing over there? Now, it took us a little while, but it dawned on me while we were there. Hey, wait a second. When I my life cycle in Qatar is only going to be so long, so we were given the opportunity to come back here to the States, and that's where InsureTech was born. Came back here in 2020 and launched it here in Nashville, Tennessee. So focuses on water technology. There's about 14,000 water events every day in America. It's a massive problem. Causes tens of billions of dollars in losses. Any property insurance underwriter, whether again it's a home, we really focus pretty hard on commercial large and small, so that's the background.
Yeah, no, like we were talking before, especially if you're doing like a high-rise building and you
Yeah,
have a leak and let's say it's 50 stories and it's in Philly or one of these big cities, and all of a sudden there's a leak in something that they did and it just goes down and down and down, and it could be at night and could be under construction, and you just don't, if you don't have that sensor, you can't turn it off, and then everything is just a mess.
exactly. Well, you really kind of need to differentiate between greenfields, new builds, and brownfields. Brownfields, you're retrofitting a water solution to a building that could be around for 20, 50, 100 years in some cases. Greenfields, quite frankly, if you're not doing it from the start, from the beginning, and I would call the start during builder's risk, to start getting water sensors onto that project during builder's risk, because again, water losses as a building is rising oftentimes causes an internal waterfall, like what I like to call it. You'll have just a pipe that's not secured properly one night or over a holiday or whatever it may be, and then obviously all the project managers and construction workers come back and they just see this water cascading and really delaying the project in a financially costly way and very disruptive way. So yeah, there's an infinite in the commercial arena. There's an infinite number of different types of buildings. So you have to look. Houses on one hand are pretty, from a retrospective standpoint, are pretty. A house is pretty much a house. It's got a hot water heater. It's got a system of plumbing throughout it, which is pretty standardized in the types of pipes that they use. How much water is generally used in a house is pretty much the same every day. Commercial is completely different. It's all bespoke, and you really have to you have to have an engineering team. You have to have a very thorough knowledge of all the different devices that are in the marketplace. And you need a specialist. You need a company that knows how to, just like a great analogy is water sprinklers. Okay. Sprinkler companies are very, very precise in what they do. You just sub it out to them. They'll figure out the right solution. They might talk to your engineers and your architects, and they're going to come up with a custom fit solution for that commercial building. The water sensoring that needs to be done is very similar. You have to have as much as you might think you might know how to do it. When there's 50 different types of sensors in the marketplace, someone's got to make sense of all of them and then bring them onto one platform that can monitor the water on a third-party basis. So hopefully that gives you a little insight to how we get into the buildings.
Yeah, no, listen, before we got on, we were talking about, listen, when there's fire, you can see smoke, you can smell it, you can hear it. Water's like a silent killer.
Right.
I hate to use that terminology, but it just is. You just don't
Well,
know what's going on. And like I said, even with my parents' house, it wasn't the pipes, it was an appliance that
right.
just cracked. And they just shut the doors and locked that thing up. And we're just lucky that they had a property manager going over, every 2 weeks. And it's the first time they went in, they tried to get the door open. They couldn't. When they got the door open, the wall of water came out. And then we went in and they figured out where it came from. But when you're dealing with a commercial project, much bigger, like you said, it's not, homes, you got pipes, you can probably figure out, where things are. But, like when we talked to our plumber, we brought it up when he did the quote. And I said, look, we want to have this water, we want to have this security for water sensoring in there. Do you know how these things work? Oh, yeah. Well, just as we're doing this, we want to make sure that's in there because I went through it with my parents' place out in north of Phoenix. And plus, look, it's out in the desert. You don't want any of that kind of stuff happening, especially when water is at a premium. So, but you were going
Yeah,
to say something?
yeah. When you think about it, if you were to take all the interior parts of your home or your commercial building off, you would see like a vein system throughout, but for electricity and for water. It's above us, it's below us, it's on the sides of us, and particularly in the commercial arena, we're not there all the time. Okay, a commercial building, for instance, our at InsureTech, one of our premier projects is a 32-story building in downtown Philadelphia, 675,000 square feet. We installed 500 sensors into that building, okay, because and they're all types of a variety of uses into fixtures, into the boiler rooms, into the risers. So there's different types of sensors that need to go in different places. And having that working knowledge is critical to making the whole infrastructure from a water monitoring perspective work. So and the truth is the sensors have been around for 10, 12, 15 years. They're not new. And they're a very important ingredient of what goes on, but they're only one part of the solution.
It's technology that makes it all work.
You got to start with engineering. Okay, you got to start with engineering. You got to go in there and look at the plans and find out where those pipes are and where are the best places to put those sensors. We made mistakes like every other new industry as we fumbled through particularly in the commercial sector. That's not necessarily mistakes, but a lot of times we over-engineered. Whereas we just put in too many, and they're going off all the time because it's at one side of the building, or somebody with a mop hit a floor sensor because a janitor did it and sent off an alert. So you got to learn the building, and the building has to learn the system. Just like sort of like how a fire sprinkler system is installed. It's got to have a bespoke design build phase to it, and then where I think we're a little bit different than the sensor companies is we do the monitoring for the customer. In other words, it's important, particularly in commercial buildings. Commercial buildings don't install anything on their own. They subcontract everything from security to janitorial services to landscaping to security. Every operable part of a commercial building is done by somebody that doesn't own it or some property management company. And they're all very, very busy people, okay? So the security company is not going to watch the water. You got to have, and that's kind of where the AI comes in. These devices are very smart. And when you get them all talking to each other, they can do some amazing things when there's a water leak and get, rather than you having that 10 days or that weekend in a commercial building or a holiday when no one's there for 2 weeks, we're able to, within seconds, we're able to tell a pipe has burst on the 4th floor and someone needs to go take a look at it. That might mean someone having to get in their car and go downtown or whatever, but they're not going to come back 2 weeks later with a basement full of water. And what could have been a 40 or 50 or $60,000 claim is now turned into a $4 million claim because it took too long for someone to get there. That immediacy to notification and that immediacy to remedy is really the future of water device technologies as we see it.
Yeah, listen, anything that you can get done at the planning stage, from whether it's a commercial or a residential, whatever type of industrial, whatever type of project it is, if you can get everything that you need to get into the planning stage, even if it's not like flooring, it's probably the last thing that gets stalled in a construction project, but you still get it spec'd in and, on the plans. But like I said, when we went through this, it kind of light bulb went off in my head, and just water, you're going to use it. You're going to have restrooms. You're going to have, you have to have it in there, right?
We use water when we don't even realize we're using water.
Yeah,
it's so much a part of us that we're using it. You just go to the sink. It's funny. You'll turn your water off in your home sometime, and you'll still, force of habit, you'll still go to the sink and turn it on and go, oh, geez, I turned it off 10 minutes ago, but you forget because water is so much a part of our lives that it's around us all the time. We need it, we love it, but it also can cause huge damages, and that's the area that we want to minimize. That's the area that's where the technology is getting better and better and better over time. You also mentioned in the planning stage. I should sort of segue into all this costs money, right? So you need to address that part. Really, if you're on a greenfield, if you're doing a very deep renovation or a new build, you're almost crazy. You're not almost crazy. You are crazy if you don't put in a water mitigation system from the beginning. And the reason why is because you can use your construction budget to pay for the first 5 years of monitoring. Okay, so you can not only put the devices into your mortgage or into your construction loan, and then from an operational perspective, there's nothing there. Okay, because you've prepaid it for that period of time. So we're seeing a lot of activity. Our technologies, our sensor providers and our aggregators and our IT people are seeing a lot of interest on new buildings because it's so much easier to engineer, it's so much easier to finance, and then you have a great story to tell your insurance providers for the lifespan of the building.
Yeah, we just like our house, we're trying to be as listen, I'm not one of these crazy green guys, but our toilets, we want them to be energy efficient. We're putting a Tesla roof on that already has the sensors on there, so we can capture the power when we're off grid, sell it back. There's a bunch, any of the faucets, that are low water generating, and we just want it to, so if we ever sold the house, I could say, look, it's got this, it's got this, it's got the sensors, and everything that we've done in there. I didn't want to go crazy green, but I wanted to go as green as possible, without killing the budget, obviously.
Sure. Well, the truth is, it's really an evolution. Okay, the sensors each month we're reviewing, we're vetting out. A new sensor could come in from Denmark, could be from China, could be from wherever in the world, right? We take them apart, we look at them, we see how they're different, why they're different, where they fit into the infrastructure of a new build or a retrofit, and so it's just I kind of liken it to the sensors that you have in your car, right? Sometimes, my car tire sensor's on, and I'm like, I just redid.
I just filled it up, right?
I just filled it up, or the check engine light's on, and I got to go get something looked at, and it's kind of an evolution. You can't expect perfect, okay? But the truth is, technology only gets better. It never goes. It never. Technology only it fixes itself in a lot of different ways, and then what that technology tells us back, that's part of our intellectual property. That technology is giving us feedback. It's telling us, you know what, you don't necessarily need humidity sensors over here. You might want them over there. Or in the boiler room, you might want to have dual verification where you got some sensors on the floor, some pucks that we call on the floor, but we also have a camera in there. So you can, you don't want to turn the water off to a big commercial building unless you're darn sure that it needs to be turned off. you have dual verification, two sensors saying the same thing at the same time, go ahead, cut it off, you know. So you learn there's all kinds of nuances to what's going on, both from an engineering, from a device sourcing perspective, and then from an aggregation, how you put them all together and get them talking to one another. It's a really interesting phase of project development that we're seeing with these water sensors.
Knowing that you started, you came back in 2020. Obviously, that's when our roller coaster started here in the States and so forth. What lessons do you think you learned as you weathered the storm? And now we're kind of, coming out of it, and we're still talking about it. It's basically 4 years, this month. But we're out of the tunnel. There's still some bumps and little potholes here and there. Like King of Prussia, they're still doing construction, with the orange barrels. Been there,
Right.
growing up there, and they're still doing it. But was
It
there
was
anything that
interesting.
cool?
Yeah, I came back. In fact, we were forced to come back because of COVID. We were told we weren't going to be able to leave the country, and we didn't know how long, so we didn't really have a choice. And we could have stayed over there, but we didn't know how long this pandemic was going to last. So the opportunity was let's get back to the States. And of course, that was a very difficult time for not just obviously from an illness perspective throughout society, but pretty much the whole world just slammed on the brakes when it came to construction and what have you. Now, at the same time, believe it or not, fortuitous for our business, but not necessarily fortuitous to commercial building owners. There have been three very, very, very large deep freezes in the United States in the last 4 years. Okay, those deep freezes hit parts of the country that were typically not viewed as an area that would have pipes bursting. Okay, Texas, huge. Probably it was more losses happened in Texas than happened during Katrina. Believe it or not, that's my risk management.
Well, it didn't get above freezing for a week.
Right. So what happens is all the pipes burst in these commercial buildings, and no one's going to work because they either got COVID or it's over the holidays or whatever.
Or there's ice on the road and they can't get there.
They can't get there. So what happens is all the water towers in these small towns across the entire state of Texas empty. Okay. When that happens, you can't take a shower, you can't drink water, you can't take a bath. I mean, they ran out of water. But what the data has told us, and what the claims management profession has told us, and again, this is 3 of the last 4 years, that it's actually become a life safety issue on commercial buildings, because when you have a society lose all of its water, the electrical grid is dependent on water to cool off the generators. So when you don't have water, okay, the generators burn out. Okay,
yeah,
so they fry, and that causes hospitals not to have electricity, and all of a sudden the hospital's on its backup generation system. And so it really the effects of leaks in a building go beyond just something popping in my condo here in Nashville and me getting wet and fixing my neighbor's mess below me and that sort of thing. If it happens across on a large scale in a community, it can cause all kinds of different disruptions that we never really pieced together until very recently. So and again, that's where you hear a lot about data and IP and what does that really mean? Okay, this is an example of it. We can now piece together the cause and the effects, and simple things like sprinkler pipes or old pipes in a university or a private school popping have a cascading effect on the local community. That's clearly something that you can't necessarily stop pipes from bursting, but when they do, you want to be able to minimize the damage. That's really the key component of what we're after.
Yeah, here in Atlanta, it gets cold a couple months out of the year, but it can get really cold. And I always worried about my pipes. I've had 3 or 4 homes here since '92, and even last year, my boat, I didn't winterize it, and I was going to winterize it, and it was really, really warm, and I was running it every week, and it was up on the lift, and we got a cold spell like for a week in December, really, really cold. And if my boat was in the water, the guy it cracked the block. There was water. It was water. It was a ski boat. It was water cooled. Anyway, there was water in the engine, and the water froze, expanded, cracked the block. anyway, when the tow guy came to tow my boat because I had to yank it out of the water and get the engine rebuilt, um, he said, if you had your boat down in the water, it wouldn't have frozen because the lake didn't freeze, but it was the air that got you, but it was the water in the engine.
Right.
And he goes, man,
Counterintuitive, isn't it? You
yeah,
would
yeah,
think,
but he
yeah,
goes, it's been so warm, you're not the only one that didn't winterize it. Because I said, yeah, I was coming up here every weekend running it. It was so warm, we didn't get any cold spells, and I was gonna do it, and I was like, oh my God, I'm already halfway through the winter. Why would I, And then all of a sudden old man winter came in, and that week, and I was like, oh man, and I went up with my son to run it, and I turned it on, and had a little dog house where the engine was. And anyway, I turned around and I just turned the engine over, and there's water coming out of his eyes. I'm turning the engine off, turn the engine off. I'm like, oh man, we cracked the block,
there you
man.
have it. There you have it. Well,
And,
you weren't alone. I can tell you that. And Atlanta was another one, like Texas. You have beautiful homes in it throughout Atlanta. You've got new commercial buildings all over the place. In the South, new builds and certainly old buildings. In a lot of cases, they don't wrap the sprinkler pipes. Sometimes it's by statute that they're not allowed to, so they're exposed. And the vast majority of pipes that burst are connected to a sprinkler system. So you want to be able to very safely and legally monitor those pipes because those are the ones that'll go. And I mean, we got several projects in the Atlanta area after the most recent deep freeze. But and quite honestly, the insurance that's another interesting part of this conversation is the insurance companies are starting to push back. Okay, it used to be you had a water event, commercial building, you pay $10,000 deductible, they fix it, you go, everybody moves on. Those deductibles maybe 5, 10 years ago bumped up to 50,000. Okay, now we've had 3 of the last 4 years where a deep freeze, which is 25 degrees or less, for 4 hours continuously is what a deep freeze is defined as. 3 deep freezes, and some of them lasted a week. Okay,
right.
pipes are bursting all over the South. Okay, the insurance underwriters, the property insurance underwriters, particularly in the commercial arena, have said we've had enough. You have to do something about it. And they just raised the deductible. They raised the deductible $250,000 for non-weather related water loss, or in some cases as high as a mil. I know a couple hotels in Atlanta where they raised the deductible up to $1 million per event. So every time you're having a water leak, you're writing a check. That's not fun. Okay, the insurance underwriters have pretty much abdicated the space on the small and medium sized losses. They're only going to cover the catastrophic ones in a lot of events. So it's really something that's it's kind of the perfect storm coming together. The good news is the technology is there's probably we've vetted probably 50 different device manufacturing companies. We know them inside out, and it's not just like fire sprinklers don't stop all fires, but they certainly make an impact. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And that impact, that's the goal, is not to be perfect, but to mitigate those losses down to less than 5% of what they could have been. So,
I just took off. We have a couple spigots out on the outside of our house that we're living in right now, and I wrapped them up with towels and put the plastic on them, and I just took that stuff off. And my wife, when she was doing, she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "No, it's gonna get cold, babe." And never had a leak in any of the homes, but I just, since my mother's thinking, I said the last thing I want to do is, uh, you know, have a pipe burst. And it's funny in our subdivision, they put out it's going to get cold. Make sure you do this and that. But I had done it, so I just took off the even on our other boat, our ski boat that I got fixed, and it's sitting out in my buddy's farm. We're selling it, and I had that winterized, but I wrapped up the cable so it didn't, I just was listen, I was a Boy Scout.
leave it dripping, leave the water dripping a little bit.
Yeah, just
Water
little things,
water can't freeze when it's moving.
yeah,
It's part
just the
time.
little things that you can do when you know that there's going to be a cold spell, and that and here in Atlanta, when I first moved here in '92, I was here like 3 weeks, and it snowed. They said snow was coming in, and I'm a Yankee coming down, living in the South. Actually, came from Greensboro, so I was already in the South. And I was making my way further down, Anyway, I was laughing. People were rushing the grocery store and all this stuff. And then I woke up the next morning and there was about 8 inches of snow and the whole city got shut down. And that week, what would happen is the temperature would like get above freezing and the snow would start to melt, but then at night it would freeze. It was like the Ho Chi Minh Trail on 285 going around Atlanta. It was like it was a nightmare trying to drive. But people out here, they just don't know, listen, I went to school in Colorado. I went through many blizzards and stuff, but my son, he has a four-wheel drive. He says, "Hey Dad, I got four-wheel drive." I'm like, "Dude, it's ice. Doesn't matter how good a
Right,
driver you are.
right.
It's bumper cars in Atlanta. When it's going to snow, if it's a little slick, just stay in your home. Don't go
Right.
out
There's no
because
need to. Right.
you're going to get a fender bender. It's not worth it." And
No.
same thing with here. If you can prevent as you're building, you think about all the security protocols that you're doing to keep your staff safe on the site and all these other things, and you want your property to be safe after you turn the keys over. Just looking at just everything that you can do to eliminate as many problems that might come up, you're going to be in such a better, and like I said, we had another water guy on a couple of years ago and my mother's flood. And so we investigated and I said, made sure when the guy came and did the reno, I was like, look, make sure you get those sensors put in there because you don't want to go through it again. Because if it does, you're gonna hate yourself that you didn't
Right.
do it and do your due diligence.
One of the other things too that we will see more and more of coming out of the sensors is you have the damage control that you're trying to create, but the AI machine learning that goes on that takes a while to mature to become structured data
Yeah, you got
is
to nurture it.
yeah, it's going to take a while before the computer starts spitting out, but eventually it's going to lead to a conservancy issue as well, and a conservancy positive, net positive situation. So you'll be using less water as well. You'll get little tips here and there about how to how and when to use your water, and so there's going to be some positive information from a conservancy perspective in the years to come as well. But again, if you're not looking, if you're building a new building, and it could be a small retail store, it could be a local standalone restaurant building, or it could be a high rise. I don't know what you're into, the audience is into here, but
They do them all.
all of them, it's affordable, it's financeable, and it will make your underwriter very, very happy that you're doing it. And that's really key to this situation, because the insurance underwriters at this stage are taking a tough mandated position, like, listen, you got to do something here because we're just getting killed on these water claims.
Yeah.
And so
So if you're out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk and you're doing a new build, or maybe you're doing a reno where you're gutting everything and you can see those pipes, and think about H2O. Like I said, it's the silent disaster. You can't smell it. You can only see it, and it can happen in the middle of the night. And if you don't have any of those sensors to tell you that either you're getting the monitor on your cell phone as an alert, or someone else like InsureTech is monitoring for you. If any of our listeners out there wanted to touch base with you and bump some questions off you and so forth, how would they reach out to you?
Well, through yourself, obviously, I'd love to stay in touch with you, Dave, and InsureTech.com. We're in the process of upgrading all of our marketing materials, so please don't judge us by our current view to the world. We're getting there from a marketing perspective, but really for the last 5 years, we have kind of laid low. In other words, we wanted to learn the entire landscape. What type of IT is needed? What do builders want? What do property managers want? What do property owners want? These are all different stakeholders in the game. So we had to learn exactly the entire life cycle. Because sometimes it's very common, you'll see in society, somebody will come up with a great project or a great product or a widget, only to find out that they actually spent all this money in R&D that people really didn't need it, or it really wasn't affecting the thing. So we don't want to go too far into our offering until we were very, very clear as to what was going to work, what was not going to work, and how to prioritize everything from engineering to installation to monitoring to ongoing service, which is also critically important. Buildings change; you got to change with them. They do additions. They do, we will do an upgrade. If all of a sudden the sensors have been, if there's a new line of sensors that have come out, we'll swap them out for you and put them in, because our goal is to make sure that when something happens, you find out about it right away and we solve it right away. So I guess Pete at InsureTech.com. That would be the best way to reach you.
And that's TEK at the end, right?
TEK, Insure, InsureTEK.com. Pete at InsureTech.com.
They didn't want to all you guys going on TECCH. Okay, it's TEK at the end there. InsureTech, TEK.com.
Yeah, we were lucky to get the name. Cost us a little bit, but we were smart to get it. And the insurance company. The nice thing about the name is it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
InsureTech.
Right. Yeah.
I'm trying to help you underwriters not have claims. Do you understand? I want to make sure that we're making a positive impact out there.
So listen, if you're out there and you're doing a new build and you know about water sensoring, or maybe you heard about it or whatever, reach out to Pete. He's an expert. And listen, it's like when like a new phone comes out or a new car comes out. I never buy anything new. I always want them. Right. There's always going to be something. I wait and let them figure out all the kinks, and then I'll go out and get something. It's just like a new lacrosse stick or a hot.
I just had a guy come into my condo a couple months ago, and it reminded me kind of us, okay? Because I never found out. I don't even know what kind of garbage disposal he put in. All I knew is this guy knows what he's doing. All right, so I'm going to rely on him. And I called him later. I said, "What kind did you put in there anyway?" I just trust him, and it worked great. No problems. This, that, and the other. But I think that's how you sort of need to view these water technology systems. Is you need an expert. If it's not InsureTech, find somebody else. Get out there. Let an expert come in and help you understand the landscape of what it is that needs to be done, from engineering to installation to monitoring to upgrades. It's a life cycle, and it's not just that you can't just plug them all in and expect it to work, and you certainly don't want to do it yourself. There's too many there's too many variables in the whole life cycle. So
like I said, if you're out there and you got a new build going on and you haven't thought about it, do yourself a favor, because it's like one of those things, I told you so, that or I warned you. Make sure that because I actually, when I had this conversation with my parents when we had the flood, because of the water line break, I said they should mandate this with every building should have this mandated by law. Maybe it has to be not by the feds, let the state do it, but it should just be a universal thing that, hey, you're doing a new build, just like you grew up north. So all the homes that are like we had a house down in Margate, Atlantic City.
Oh yeah.
And so now when you build a home there, they got to be up. All the homes in Hilton, because the water table, everything's built up 12 feet. So in Florida, guess what? If you're living on the coast, your house should be up.
Seatbelts used to not be required.
Right, exactly. So things change, but this is just a simple little thing that you can save yourself so much more. It's just a nice thing. You go to bed at night knowing that there's a little sensor out there that's working for you 24/7, 365. And like I said, water, it can make a mess. So reach out to Pete and InsureTech, and they'll do their best to help you with wherever you might be in your building or renovation construction projects. If anybody wants to reach out to me, you can get me at davidc@ccr-mag.com. Listen, the way that Pete got on here, publicist sent me a PR piece. I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is cool. When I had the water flood, and I like competition. I had another, water guy, but that was, a year and a half, 2 years ago. So here he is again. We got another, vendor offering opportunities. And, listen, the day you stop learning is the day you should go do something else. But with me, send me stuff. We look at everything. Okay. It could be a charity golf tournament. It could be a new product release. It could be your 50th anniversary. And with the shutdown, we just used to post construction content. Now I post all sorts of stuff. How to buy a new cell phone. What are the best tires to put on your truck? Hey, what are the best hair inspections? If you want to be a guy one day, you want to wear those things these days, you can wear them. Okay. I got half my circulation's female. They're wearing them. So the bottom line is listen, the majority of it's still construction. Don't get me wrong, but I've kind of branched out and I put all sorts of stuff on there. And listen, we have 3.5 million people that find us last month. We're on page one on Google, on thousands and thousands of pages, and they don't come to us because our website looks cool. They come to us because we have good content, and just little things that you can see on there. And like I said, so don't judge your book by the cover. Send me the press release, send it to us. Let us be the judge. And listen, it's very tough to get in the magazine, but we post every day. We've got all different types of social media platforms. We post something, our TAT or turnaround time is about 24 to 40 hours. We send you the link. You share it. It's good for our SEO, which is your search engine optimization. That's how Google finds you and they can point you to the right direction. It's a win-win. So send us stuff because we love content. I'm a content builder. So send it to us and we'll get it. We'll find a place for it. So as we close out, Pete, if you were going to leave our listeners out there a commercial construction coffee talk with one positive thought or phrase as we end Q1 and go into Q2 and the remainder of 2024, what would it be?
Well, I think it's a selling point. If you're an engineer or you're a building engineer or you're an architect or you're trying to bid a job, if you can include what now everybody kind of intuitively knows that these sensors are out there. We kind of know that they're there. We've seen them on the shelf at Home Depot. But if you can just become a little bit more educated, you might get that job because you brought a solution to the table that the other GCs or project managers haven't really learned or done yet. Just get a bid for it, put it on the table, and try to help yourself get the job by becoming more knowledgeable in this space. Because two things are for sure. Number one, the problem's not going away. Buildings are only getting bigger, they're getting older, pipes are getting older, deep freezes are happening every year now. And number two, the technology is there. So, and that's also getting better. So probably you might as well take a look at it now, learn, become not necessarily an expert, but become somewhat, conversational about this topic would be a big help to you if you're in the construction business.
Well, I'll bridge on that. Listen, the day you stop learning is the day you should go do something else. So
That's right. That's right.
So here in construction, there's all sorts of stuff happening. AI is at warp speed. It's changing the way people build and how you can treat your projects. So learn as much as you can. And when new stuff comes out, like I said, you might want to take a little look back, but at least you'll know about it or do your research and find out. You can find anything on the web. So do your research and then ask questions. And if you do put it in sensors or any new product in your projects, at least you'll know basically how things work and so forth. And listen, I was a wee below and a tenderfoot. Be like a Boy Scout, be prepared. So ask questions and learn.
Your insurance company will love you if you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll appreciate it because we're seeing it the tipping point really kind of happened a couple months ago where the insurance community is now starting to require it. So it's just something we got to get to know about, learn more about.
So a couple things before we sign off. Number one, listen, we want you to be safe on the construction site. All right. So we want you to get home, be able to have dinner with your wife, your husband, your kids, your pets, whatever. Enjoy, relax that evening and be able to get up and go do it the following day. Number two, I want you to stay hydrated. Okay. I've got my electrolytes in here, but I'm going to be putting them in. I'm going to suck down these bottles of water today. And listen, dehydration. When you're dehydrated, you make mistakes. That's when you get hurt. So make sure, even though the heat hasn't come in yet, for the summer and old man winter, it doesn't matter if it's cold or hot. You got to stay hydrated. So make sure you stay liquefied, drink lots of water, put some electrolytes in there, and you'll just make it through the day so much better. And lastly, hit the like button out there, okay? So we can get this, episode out on the algorithms, on YouTube and throw it out there and let people know about the water sensor technology and have people reach out to Mr. Pete and, find out what you can do and what you can't do, with your current or future building plans, out there in the States, whether they're residential or commercial. So, Pete, pleasure meeting a Yankee living in the South.
Yeah, you got it. You
were in Atlantan. That was even better. And, in the great state of Nashville, it's about a hop, skip, and a jump, about 3 hours from me, depending on if I'm going on 80 or not, up 75 and then the 24. So, but get up there. I don't know if I think I have a Nashville event there.
Man. I'm Broadway's a half a mile away.
Yeah, no, listen, like I said, we normally do an event during the year. I have to look at the calendar. I got Charlotte coming up next month, and then Chicago. I have to look and see if Nashville's on there, but we get up there, and so I'm going to
Good.
look it up, and we'll eat some grub, some barbecue down on this, down on the strip, and it's a hop, skip, and a jump for me. So,
Come see
so
us.
absolutely. So everybody, listen, you got Hump Day tomorrow, you got Good Friday and then Easter weekend coming up. So everybody have a great rest of the week. Remember, no negativity in your mind. Keep stay positive, smile, have fun, and your day's just going to go so much better. And stay hydrated. Like I said, you're going to be, your body's going to thank you. So, and it's water. We were talking about water, so it's a water thing. You believe it or not, your body needs it. So, so with that said, Pete, say goodbye from Nashville.
Thank you so much, everyone. Hope to hear from you.
All right, and I'm going to sign off from Sugar Hill, just below the Buford Dam by Lake Lanier, about 25 miles north of downtown ATL. And we will catch you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Pete, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much for the knowledge. All right,
Thank you
and
so much.
everybody, ciao, everybody. We'll see you next time. All right.